and welcome. Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari presents a budget of 20.51 trillion naira for the 2023 fiscal year, the last for this administration, with a warning that payment of petroleum subsidy is no longer sustainable and would be discontinued in 2023. Lawmakers expressed mixed reactions to the 2023 fiscal spending plans presented by President Buhari. And Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi says Nigeria's economy cannot be diversified because of inconsistencies in government policies. He was speaking at an engagement at Oxford University in the United Kingdom. On business news tonight, Bureau of Public Enterprises to use 206.18 billion naira privatization proceeds to fund Nigeria's 2023 budget deficit.
And on sports news tonight, Nigeria's Flamingos arrive in Goa for the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in India following a 10-day camp training in Turkey.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, appeal court orders members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, to resume work immediately.
And in international news from London, Ukrainian, Russian and Belarusian civil rights campaigners are the joint winners of this year's Nobel Peace Prize.
President Muhammadu Buhari today presented his last budget proposal to a joint session of the National Assembly. In presenting a proposal of 20.51 trillion naira for the 2023 fiscal year, President Buhari says priority has been given to infrastructure and security. He, however, warns that the payment of petrol subsidy is no longer sustainable and will be discontinued from next year. Our correspondent Terry Kumi reports.
The Senate President leads senators into the House of Representatives' makeshift chamber as lawmakers await the arrival of President Muhammadu Buhari for his 8th and final budget presentation. The budget presentation is coming on the same day as the 2022 appropriation bill, which was presented on the 7th of October 2021. At exactly 10:07 a.m., the President walks in to a warm reception from the lawmakers. Before the President's presentation, the Senate's President, Ahmed Lawan, who prides in the National Assembly maintaining the January to December budget cycle, gives his remarks.
The large-scale and massive stealing of our oil is concerning, as this reduces drastically the revenues available to the government.
Then it's time for the main event, the presentation of the 2023 appropriation bill. But first, the President speaks about the performance of the 2022 budget so far.
The sum of 8.29 trillion naira had been spent by July 31st, 2022, out of the total appropriation of 17.32 trillion naira. Despite our revenue challenges, we have consistently met our debt service commitments. Staff salaries and statutory transfers have also been paid as and when due.
The President elicits a reaction from the lawmakers when he asks them not to go against the rules.
The current practice, where some committees of the National Assembly purport to pass budgets for government-owned enterprises, which are at variance with the budgets sanctioned by me, and communicate such directly to the MDAs, is against the rules and needs to stop, please. Nigeria requires... It is still my time.
He then presents the 2023 appropriation bill.
The 2023 appropriation, therefore, is a budget of fiscal sustainability and transition. Total federally distributable revenue is estimated at 11.09 trillion naira in 2023, while total revenue available to fund the 2023 federal budget is estimated at 9.73 trillion naira. A total of expenditure of 20.51 trillion naira is proposed for the federal government in 2023.
Of the 20.51 trillion naira proposed for 2023, statutory transfers stand at 744.1 billion naira. Non-debt recurrent expenditure is expected to go up 8.27 trillion naira. Capital expenditure 5.35 trillion naira. And debt servicing 6.31 trillion naira. While sinking funds will go up 247.73 billion naira. The president then seizes the moment to address the issue of the striking university lecturers.
We expect the staff of these institutions to show a better appreciation of the current state of affairs in the country. In the determined effort to resolve the issue, we have provided a total of 470 billion naira in the 2023 budget from our constrained resources for revitalization and salary enhancements in the tertiary institutions. Distinguished senators and honorable members, it is instructive to know that today government alone cannot provide the resources required for funding tertiary education.
And for one last time, President Muhammadu Buhari lays the 2023 budget. In concluding the proceedings, the Speaker of the House of Representatives assures of a speedy and thorough process as he speaks directly to the heads of MDAs.
And we will exercise the full authority of Parliament to hold to account those who fail to provide the records we need to make informed decisions on the appropriation bill.
According to the President, 15.2 billion naira has been provided in the budget to scale up measures for safer learning environments in schools, just as defense and internal security have been given top priority. He promises that insecurity will be curtailed before the end of his administration, as he intends to leave a legacy of a peaceful and prosperous nation. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, members of the National Assembly have been reacting to the biggest fiscal budget for a financial year in Nigeria's history following its presentation by the president. While some called for caution, others are optimistic that the goal of the budget can be achieved if both the executive and legislature work together.
President Muhammadu Buhari is at the National Assembly for the presentation of his last budget in his 8-year tenure as President of Nigeria. After the budget is laid, lawmakers trickle out of the makeshift chambers, and some of them say, despite the flag-off of political campaigns, the budget will be ready on schedule.
I'm promising Nigerians that work starts immediately. From the meetings we've had with the Appropriation Committee, we're going to start working day and night to make sure that at the end of December, this budget will be out.
I think, this administration has done well, laid a very good foundation, and I think it's a good budget for transition. So we are up for it, and I think it's going to be a good place for Nigerians to look forward to.
On the borrowing plan to finance the huge deficit, another lawmaker calls for caution.
We are in an election year. If we don't borrow, another election will not be held. It means that we must definitely allow money to be borrowed. But if the borrowing are for things that are not priorities for the country, I think some of us will stand against it.
This lawmaker wants the federal government to take the big step on fuel subsidy.
We advise that the subsidy should be removed totally. Subsidy is a pure scam. If we remove, for example, when you travel to Togo, a liter of the fuel is 900 naira. If you remove it and put those money in other things that will benefit our rural dwellers, it will help us.
The National Assembly is expected to scrutinize and pass the budget by December and communicate saying to the President for assent in line with the January to December budget cycle mandate.
We have more on the budget a little later on, but away from that story to others. A day after the Rivers State House of Assembly passed a resolution derecognizing Celestine Omehia as former governor of the state, Governor Nyesom Wike has ratified the decision. By implication, Mr. Omehia, who was sacked by the Supreme Court in 2007 after about 5 months in office, will no longer be known and addressed as a former governor of Rivers State. At the signing ceremony in Government House, Port Harcourt, Governor Wike urged the public not to politicize the decision of the State Assembly in trying to correct an error.
At exactly 12:15 p.m., October the 7th, 2022, a landmark event is ushered into the political history of Rivers State. The politician, Celestine Omehia, once recognized as a former governor, is disrobed and his portrait removed from the wall of the Executive Council chamber of the Government House. The action by Governor Nyesom Wike follows his ratification of the resolution by the State Assembly that Omehia be derecognized.
In the first instance, the recognition was extrajudicial, that the Assembly has no power to change the judgment of any court, not to talk about even Supreme Court. Not to talk about even Supreme Court. So people should understand and not to begin to play politics.
A lawyer and former Commissioner for Education, Mr. Omehia served as governor of Rivers State from May to October 2007, when the Supreme Court replaced him with Rotimi Amechi, who was affirmed the rightful candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the state governorship election. In June 2015, the 8th Assembly resolved that Omehia be recognized as a former governor, a resolution that Governor Wike endorsed. That decision was, however, reversed on October 6, 2022, by the current Assembly, made up of most of the legislators from the previous one.
In this part of our country, people will praise you when it suits them. But when you do the uncommon things, people will not praise you. And that is why leadership is key. When you even know that you have done the wrong thing, but as a leader, you come up to say, look, what we did was wrong. Let us right it. That is hallmark of leadership.
Almost immediately after the ratification, Governor Wike makes a statewide broadcast, warning politicians against violent campaigns, and announces a restriction on the use of public schools without government approval.
I wish to draw attention of all the political parties and their candidates to Executive Order 21, which specifically prohibits the use of public school buildings, structures, and premises for political rallies without prior permission from the Commissioner of Education.
For Governor Wike, all the decisions are taken in the defense of justice and interest of Rivers people.
Like we told you, we'll have more on the budget. In part 2, after the break, we'll take a closer look at today's budget presentation by the President, and we'll be joined by a Professor of Economics, Akpan Ekpo. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari presents a budget of 20.51 trillion naira for the 2023 fiscal year, the last for this administration, with a warning that the payment of petroleum subsidy is no longer sustainable and would be discontinued in 2023. Lawmakers expressed mixed reactions to the 2023 fiscal spending plans presented by the president. Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi says Nigeria's economy cannot be diversified because of inconsistencies in government policies. He was speaking at an engagement at Oxford University in the United Kingdom. And Ukrainian, Russian and Belarusian civil rights campaigners are joint winners of this year's Nobel Peace Prize. Following the President's budget presentation at a joint session of the National Assembly. Joining me now on the News at 10, a Professor of Economics and Public Policy, University of Uyo, Professor Akpan Egbo, to break down some of the details. Thank you for joining us on the News at 10. Professor, the President has introduced the 2023 budget within an election year. What are your thoughts? And considering this is the last time he'll be doing so?
Thank you very much. Yes, the President's budget has been very comprehensive. Definitely is in an election year. It is his last budget before leaving office next year. There's some areas of concern. First, the President has listed a lot of achievements, which we don't have time to discuss it, but my worry in one area is the area of power supply. They've thrown a lot of money at the power sector, and still the economy is, for the most part, a generator-driven economy. We've not done much in that area, and yet it's not a rocket science. The other concern is that there's a lot of revenue challenge. The President has said so. There's a big threat to the economy. The deficit's about 10.8 trillion, which will be filled the gap through borrowing, both domestic and perhaps external. I don't support the issue of selling national assets to fill the gap. But what is worrisome is that if you look at debt servicing, almost 31%, and sadly enough, the amount of debt servicing exceeds capital expenditures. And you need more capital expenditure to grow the economy. So that is worrisome, you know. And I hope that the borrowing should not be to pay for recurrent or personal costs. You borrow to finance capital projects, hard infrastructure, in order to enhance growth in the medium and long term. So I hope the borrowing is not to finance recurrent. Although, of course, I must put a caveat that in a recession, you can borrow to pay salaries in order to show up higher demand. But we're not in a recession. So I hope, so that's my worry. The capital component is very little, and it's less than what we spend in debt servicing. Then the debt, we need more transparency in terms of debt, you know. If you are borrowing to finance infrastructure, let's so that those projects can pay their way. Otherwise, becomes a big challenge. The other issue the President raised, which of concern to me, is the issue of by next year, oil subsidy will be abolished. Let me say it is easy said than done. First things first. Are the refineries working? The 4 refineries we have, are they working? We need to make sure that they are in operation so that we stop importing refined products. And then step by step, we can then begin to remove the subsidy. I'm sure that conversation will be discussed at some point when the time comes. But let's also not miss the point that this is an estimate, and the National Assembly has a right to scrutinize the budget based on their own expertise and maybe co-opt experts, so that at the end of the day, we have a budget for Nigeria. The other worry is that, as you've said, is an era of politics. So I hope politics does not dominate the discussion.
And Professor, these are also some of the worries the lawmakers indeed expressed in our earlier report. But what do you think the average Nigerian feeling, the impact of, you know, planned economic growth and these policies, how they impact them? And this is also seeing as, you know, our population is growing.
Our population is growing, but until we the budget is implemented and we'll see the results, the outcome, then we can see there's an impact. For now, it's mere estimate. As I always say, people don't eat growth, people don't eat GDP. When they begin to implement and we monitor, we evaluate it, then the impact will be felt. For now, it's mere estimate, and we only hope that at the end of the day, it will be of benefit to all Nigerians. And let me say that the budget is the emphasis more is on fiscal sustainability, okay, which really means that the government is concerned more about revenue, expenditure, and debt, and its interactions, okay? And let's hope that monetary policy will be accommodating. But for now, it is difficult to actually assess the impact. We only hope that if it's well articulated and the operation bill becomes an act, properly implemented, then the impact will be assessed at that time.
Professor of Economics and Public Policy, University of Uyo, Professor Akpan Ekpa, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us on the News at 10 tonight.
Thank you for having me.
We go outside the shores of the country. The Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, has been giving reasons why the nation's economy is dwindling. Now, he attributes it to policy inconsistency, fiscal rascality, and lack of productivity. Mr. Obi stated this during an interactive forum at the Oxford University in the UK, which is examining the trends and prospects of Nigeria's economy and their broader implications for Africa's development. The former Anambra State governor explains that without consistency in government policies, the economy cannot be diversified.
What you need is to ensure that these policies are implemented strictly as it is. First, just like you said before, to drive this process, you need to have a regulated environment with certainty of policies. Not that you say this today and do this tomorrow. No, people need to have certainty that this is what it is, this is what is going to happen and everything. You mentioned issues of exchange rates and all this and everything and what the CBN is doing today. Let me deal with this without even looking at probably what you're going to do. There's no other way. First, I'll tell you what is affecting the exchange rate in Nigeria. It's fiscal rascality and the country not being productive. If you have a productive country, which I'll later explain, you export, you earn the dollar, and you exchange, it's stabilized. It's simple. There's no other thing to it. And if you have a physical rascality where you are printing money for subsidy, which I have mentioned everywhere, as for me, it's organized crime. So you're throwing money away, and you have massive corruption. This too is creating wealth without enterprise. Yeah. And they're chasing this. Wealth must come with enterprise. Yeah. There must be productivity.
Back home to party politics, Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State has restated the call by a group of the People's Democratic Party governors, asking the national chairman of the party, Iyorchia Ayu, to resign as he promised. The Benue State governor is also offering Mr. Ayu the option of begging for understanding from the aggrieved pro-governor Wike group, instead of what he describes as the false illusion that the issue is a family matter to be resolved. Mr. Ortom made the call in Makurdi during a state executive council meeting.
I have offered two things. It's either you resign or plead and beg the people to understand with you why you should continue as national chairman. Because you said it yourself, nobody compared you. This is my position. The national chairman told the whole world that he will resign if another candidate emerges. And today, another candidate emerged. So the point I'm asking is, where is your integrity if you don't resign? But there are many ways of doing it. If you plead, if you beg, if you seek for the understanding of the people to accept you, the way you are, so that we run towards election and win. It is still okay. It is, you have the honors to convince them. Not to say that your tenure is 4 years, so you cannot resign.
And to the education sector, where history has been made at one of the nation's foremost tertiary institutions, the University of Lagos, which has produced its first female vice-chancellor. She is Professor Folashade Ogunshola, a professor of microbiology at the College of Medicine, Idiaraba, Lagos. She will succeed the outgoing vice-chancellor, Professor Tonyo Gudipe, whose tenure elapses next month. Professor Ogunshola was made the acting vice-chancellor of UNILAG when Professor Gudipe was temporarily removed following the crisis that erupted in the institution 2 years ago before his reinstatement by the federal government. Professor Ogunshola was once the provost of the College of Medicine and also served as deputy vice-chancellor to Professor Gudipe. The chairman of the university's governing council, Senator Lanre Tejuosho, had earlier promised that a new vice-chancellor of the university would be chosen through a credible and transparent process. On Monday, the university kicked off a series of events to mark its 60th anniversary. And we're off to Abuja now for more stories. Gloria Mizuke is standing by. Hi, Gloria.
Thank you, Millicent. In Abuja, we turn our attention to the judiciary, where the Court of Appeal in Abuja today upheld the decision of the National Industrial Court, ordering members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, to resume work with immediate effect. The appellate court gave the order in a ruling on an application by ASU seeking permission for it to appeal against the order of the Industrial Court. The three-man panel led by Justice Haman Barker also granted ASU conditional leave to appeal the order of the Industrial Court.
That order of the National Industrial Court must be obeyed today, and upon proof of compliance of that order, they can file a notice of appeal. We had made the point that there was no appeal before this court. An appeal is deemed to be brought to court when the records are transmitted to this court. There has not been an appeal. They've been seeking for leave to appeal, and court said, you must obey that order today, and upon compliance, we will grant you the leave to appeal. And if you do not obey that order, that conditional permission that we're giving you to appeal will be immediately vacated.
Mr. Femi Falana will in truth, SAN will in truth, to his standing over the years as an advocate of rule of law, ensure that these disputes, which he had undertaken yesterday, to put all his capabilities in motion to ensure that it's resolved, that he takes appropriate steps to ensure that this order is complied with and that the ASU imbroglio is resolved as timeously as possible. In the interim, the court had ordered that Mr. Falana would advise ASU, who are our clients, to call up the strike and to also approach the court appropriately to ventilate their grievances.
Meanwhile, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, says Nigerians will hear directly from the President on the lingering strike by ASU. Mr. Gbajabiamila said this after meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari on the matter. He told State House correspondents that the engagements with the President on the matter has been fruitful. Today's meeting with the President comes after the Speaker led the House leadership to submit recommendations to President Buhari on ways to resolve the dispute to President Buhari.
Just came here for a follow-up, which was supposed to be yesterday, but unfortunately the President was not around. This is a follow-up, and we had once again very, very fruitful, good discussions with Mr. President on the pending issue, and this matter will be concluded. You will hear directly from the President, but suffice to say that we had a very good meeting. We all look forward to it, but we had a good meeting. We had a good meeting. You can read it in between the lines. Thank you. Yeah, all right.
We'll take a break now. Still ahead on the news at 10. Bureau of Public Enterprises to use 206.18 billion naira privatization process to fund Nigeria's 2023 budget deficit. That's some business news. We'll join us again. Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. President Muhammadu Buhari has encouraged governors under the auspices of Nigeria Governors Forum to meet with the Minister of Water Resources, whom he says has worked hard on dams and water resources in the country to fashion out solutions to the menace of flooding. He gave the advice today when he received the outgoing chairman of NGF, Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, the incoming interim chairman, Aminu Waziri Tambuwal of Sokoto State, and the interim deputy chairman, Atiku Bagudu of Kebbi State, in his office. While staying with legal matters, Justice Iyan Ekwo of the Federal High Court, Abuja, has struck out a suit instituted by the detained leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, against the chief judge of the Federal High Court on the secret trial of terrorism charges policy of the court. The suit, which has the chief judge, Justice John Soho, as the sole defendant, was thrown out following its withdrawal from the Biafra Nation agitator. Mr. Kanu had taken the chief judge before the court following the adoption of a practice which directed trial of terrorism-related charges to be done on camera. His grouse was that the secret trial policy effected shortly after the federal government slammed a 15-count treasonable felony charge against him constituted an infringement on his fundamental rights to fair trial. Justice Ekwo also adjourned to December 14 for hearing on the suit filed by Mr. Kanu, challenging his alleged abduction from Kenya. Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Gloria. Thanks again, Gloria. The Group Managing Director of the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, Mr. Mele Kyari, and the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, today visited the scene of a newly discovered illegal pipeline in the Okere axis of Burutu local government area of Delta State. The first in this series of reports, our senior correspondent, Olu Phillips, who has been looking into the issue of crude oil theft. His finding unveils that preliminary investigation shows the illegal pipeline leads to an illegal loading point in the creeks where large quantities of crude oil are allegedly being stolen.
They say happiness comes in waves, but beyond this beautiful wave of Yokri River lies the nefarious activity that has bedeviled the nation's economy, one of several scattered across the South-South region. This is our journey into the nation's oil region, found predominantly in the Niger Delta area. In 2014, on these waters, my crew and I were crudely held hostage while chasing an aborted gas project in Ogidigbe. 8 years after, we return to these axes, and our destination is the home of the man regarded as the strong man of Gwaramatu Kingdom, High Chief Government Owezide Epamupolo, aka Tompolo. His mien may not easily give him away considering his perceived capacity. He sits with me and speaks to his commitment to a better Nigeria, his determination to crush any group wanting to truncate federal government's efforts at protecting the pipelines, and his optimism on a rebound of crude oil production numbers.
A lot of people are now running helter-skelter because they know that there is nothing in this country concerning the River Rhine that I don't know. The people in Imo, River State, were all brothers and friends. So once we discuss and agree, and that is the more reason why our people in River State, maybe they are going to start any moment from now. Once they are fully engaged, and then we'll now still call the security people to call their people to order. Once that is done, then we are good to go.
He's not done yet. He makes this weighty allegation.
When you are coming from Warri, you see security has put all over the places. If you look at the whole setting, where this illegal bunkering is taking place, if you have one Navy gunboat, one Army gunboat, the extreme end is where the real bunkering is taking place.
To get the job started, about 17,000 locals have been brought, briefed, and deployed across the region. To understand the scale of work, we join these young men who are currently providing intelligence about the diverse and difficult terrain of the region to government security agencies. It's a journey that takes us sometimes into the night, speeding and bumping through the unending sea waves just to arrive at locations called camps, where vandals operate by making careful but illegal insertions onto crude lines, traversing the soils of the mangrove swamp and beneath the sea, connecting them through pipelines into reservoir tanks constructed in the bushes where they cook the crude to get diesel, kerosene, and empty the residue onto the environment. Wow. Whilst stealing may be occurring in the creeks, an unsuspecting quantity of crude allegedly leaves the country through illegal connections from the creeks directly into the sea, where barges load them and sail off. We've just been tipped off of such illegal insertions. Wading through the crude-stained parts, we arrive at the scene, and it's time for men to go to work. It will involve all measures just to unearth what is believed to be concealed. After hours of work, what do we have?
Look at the 3 pipes here. Now you can see the 3 pipes clear here.
This is the point of a suspected insertion and illegal connection. You can see there are 3 pipes here. The big one is a national trunk line, which is the Transfocados trunk line, a 24 inches pipeline. Now you see those 2 pipelines on top of it making a head knock on the pipe. Professionally, this looks unkept. This looks suspicious because it's tapped on top of a traveling crude line. And the question is, why do we have that insertion on a scraped top of a 24 inches pipe, double 6 inches pipe, traveling all the way, and it is suspected to be traveling all the way to the high sea. This is what we have here. Those 2 lines traveling. Those 2 lines traveling and joining up themselves here. To my mind, it tells me it will give it more pressure. Through several coordinates, the line, according to the security guys, has a discharge point in the sea. So we hop up back into the boat and sail off.
The river that they rough.
The river don't rough. So what was this platform?
Sure. They will remove this knot and remove it. Yeah, remove the flash. They keep something here to cover the flow of oil. So if they take it now out, then the oil can flow.
Is this about to become the biggest crude heist in federal government's bids to crush all thieves? Most definitely, the last shouldn't be heard of what security operatives here suspect is a major unaccounted offshore fleece point of Nigeria's crude oil. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Well, you can follow our series on crude oil theft on our website, that's channelstv.com, and of course our YouTube channel. Let's go over to some company news now. First Bank has rewarded winners of the First Mobile Cash Out promo. The bank says the promo is part of its efforts to strengthen customer loyalty and deepen brand competitiveness.
First Bank is leveraging evolving technologies to bring fast and convenient digital banking solutions to its customers. The financial service provider is rewarding account holders and users of the First Mobile application via First Mobile Cash Out promo.
The First Mobile promo has been on for a while, and we are able to keep our promise today that if you bank with First Bank and you do it conscientiously, you can be rewarded at any time. And this is not the last. We'll continue to reward our customers from time to time.
In collaboration with InterSwitch, First Mobile is built to reflect First Bank's resolve at reinforcing the digitization of payment systems.
We have come a long way as regards this promo, and then pretty much we are happy with the success rates that was actually recorded. We're big on collaboration and also trying to accelerate growth through partnership, which is always mutually beneficial on both sides between InterSwitch and First Bank, who happens to be one of our major customers.
Winners of the grand prize of 1 million naira emerge after making a minimum of 20 transactions in a week.
And I say a very big thank you to First Bank. Though we have been banking with First Bank for so long, but I'm so happy that she has the opportunity to win the money. And I will advise people to bank with First Bank. I've been banking with First Bank since 2012, so I have no regret banking with them, and I say a very big thank you.
The modalities and the selection process we are okay. Before starting any draws or any promo, they normally send all these stuffs to us. So we vet them and we check, and that's why we are here to also verify that everything went well.
First Bank says it will ensure the continued safety of customers' funds across multiple electronic payment channels, irrespective of where they may be across the world.
Anne is ready with the business news. Anne Wilder, over to you.
Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, is to use privatization proceeds worth 206.18 billion naira to fund the deficit in the 2023 budget. President Muhammadu Buhari made this known today at the presentation of the 2023 budget to the National Assembly. The president, however, mentioned other sources of funding the deficit, which include new borrowings of 8.8 trillion naira and 1.77 trillion naira drawdowns on bilateral, multilateral loans secured for specific development projects. It will also be recalled that the BPE contributed 90.73 billion naira through privatization proceeds to the 2022 budget deficit. We head to the equities market now, where a slight rebound made it today in the final trading session of the week. Investors eyed MTN Nigeria and some Tier 1 banking. Let's take a look at the numbers. Ladi Williams has more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, after 3 straight days of losses, we finally have a green close. And it's not by a bad margin. We see 0.19% there, 47,351 points, with the market cap still below the 26 trillion level at 25.791 trillion. Let's move over now to the activity chart. We see it's all red. Volume, 137 million units of stocks traded, valued at 1.71 billion naira. We see deals, 3,845, much less than we saw yesterday, about 4,000 deals we had yesterday. Let's look at the sectoral performance now. We see banking there, topping the counter there in the green, up 1.04%, thanks to GTCO and a couple of Tier 1 lenders there. And we see consumer goods also in the green, up 0.13%. Oil and gas down 0.41%. Well, the market breadth is tight today, 13 gainers against 13 decliners. Quite a dramatic holiday shortened week. Maybe, just maybe we'll get a better outing next week. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Ladi Williams. This is back to you.
Well, that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. Now to some international news. President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russian officials have begun to prepare their society for a possible use of nuclear weapons and that the world must act now. He denied having urged strikes on Russia and claimed an earlier remark was misunderstood. Here's Samuel Pusey with other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Ukrainian, Russian and Belarusian civil rights campaigners are the joint winners of this year's Nobel Peace Prize.
Has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2022 to one individual and 2 organizations.
The prize will be seen by many as a condemnation of Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is celebrating his 70th birthday, and Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko, making it one of the most politically contentious in decades.
Alex
Bialyatsky, a Belarusian who founded a human rights body of his own in response to protest crackdowns, took the award for his work as a human rights advocate. He's currently being held in pre-trial detention. The Russian human rights organization Memorial and the Ukrainian human rights organization the Center for Civil Liberties are also winners, recognized for their outstanding efforts to document war crimes, human rights abuses and the abuse of power.
The Peace Prize laureates represent civil society in their home countries. They have for many years promoted the right to criticize power and protect the fundamental rights of citizens. They have made an outstanding effort to document war crimes, human rights abuses, and the abuse of power.
Thailand's Prime Minister has met bereaved families and victims of an attack on a child daycare centre which killed 37 people. Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-o-cha spoke to families of the victims to offer his condolences and said they would receive compensation. It's after a 34-year-old attacker, a local named Panya Kamrab, shot and stabbed 37 people, most of them children, before killing his wife and his stepson and turning the gun on himself. Divisions between European Union leaders over capping gas prices and national rescue packages have resurfaced as discussions continue on how best to deal with a winter energy crisis. Meeting at Prague Castle, 15 EU states want a price cap on gas, but do not agree on the details of how it should be done. Meanwhile, Germany, Denmark and the Netherlands oppose any cap. The summit's chairman, European Council President Charles Michel, said no decisions were expected on Friday, but he hoped the discussion among leaders would lead to a deal when they next meet.
There is a huge pressure on the households, on the families, on the businesses and for the economic development within the EU. This is fundamental to be able to resolve this fundamental question. We do not have right to lose time. This is not an option to lose time, and we need to decide as soon as possible.
The number of people known to have been killed after an avalanche struck a team of mountaineers high in the Indian Himalayas has risen to 19. The 34 trainees and 7 instructors were practicing navigation when they were hit on their descent from a peak in the northern state of Uttarakhand. Persistent bad weather and snow complicated rescuers' efforts to reach the mountaineers. Rescue operations are continuing to search for 10 other people, that's according to local media. Lesotho is holding parliamentary elections with little sign that these will end years of political gridlock. 50 parties are contesting the Friday poll in the kingdom. Divisions and defections within the governing ABC party have left it vulnerable to opposition rivals, particularly the Democratic Congress. Last month, Lesotho's highest court overturned a state of emergency imposed in August after members of parliament failed to pass a raft of constitutional reforms. And finally, a fire has damaged the enigmatic statues on Easter Island, with some of the charring said to be irreplaceable. Chile's Cultural Heritage Undersecretary said that an unknown number of the stone-carved statues had been affected by the blaze. Easter Island has nearly 1,000 of the megaliths, known as Maui, carved by a Polynesian tribe more than 500 years ago. The fire, which is reported to have been started deliberately, is centred around Easter Island's Rano Raraku volcano, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Let's now take you through the world of sports. The Flamingos of Nigeria have arrived in Goa for the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup that will kick off next week in India. The team arrived in the city after a 10-day training camp in Turkey, where they played 2 friendly matches against Galatasaray and Fenerbahce. They will begin their World Cup campaign against Germany on Tuesday, October 11th. Their other matches are against New Zealand on October the 14th and Chile 3 days later. And Jurgen Klopp says Liverpool must become unpredictable to return to winning ways as they look to recover from a poor start to the season ahead of Sunday's game against Arsenal. Liverpool challenged on all 4 fronts last season thanks to their counter-pressing style, but they have struggled to replicate that form and are languishing in 9th after winning 2 of their 7 games so far.
The thing is, for us, it's much more important that we become unpredictable again. And we need different systems for that as well, and so this is not the only system we can play. This was now a 4-4-2. That's always with when you name systems. It's a 4-3-3 or it's a 5-4-5-1. So it's a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1. We don't want to make it more complicated than it is, but there are obviously different systems for us available, and we have to choose from now on which one is the best for the next opponent, and or the best for us in the moment. And yeah, but how I said, we have to be more unpredictable, definitely.
And Kylian Mbappe has emerged as the world's highest-paid footballer. This is the first time a player other than Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo has topped the list in 8 years. Mbappe is estimated to earn $128 million for the 2022-2023 season before agents' fees, which is a record for Forbes' annual rankings. His PSG teammate Messi is second at $120 million, while Ronaldo occupies 3rd spot with $100 million. Neymar has $87 million, and Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah is on $53 million to complete the top 5. And that's a wrap on sports news. I'm Victor Matthias. It's back to Millicent with the wrap of the news at 10.
Thank you, Victor. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today presented a budget of 20.51 trillion naira for the 2023 fiscal year, the last for this administration, with a warning that the payment of petroleum subsidy is no longer sustainable and will be discontinued in 2023. Also today, Labour Party's presidential candidate Peter Obi said Nigeria's economy cannot be diversified because of inconsistencies in government policies. He was speaking at an engagement at Oxford University in the United Kingdom. That's news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.